Hey, welcome to the Julie Show. I am Julie Desjardins. I'm coming to you from Vancouver, BC, from my home and my place of work. I am a healing practitioner for close to 30 years, and I do use cannabis in my practice, medicinally, topically, for my clients with healing massage oils. And today, my topic is, can we trust the police? I'm going to share a couple of personal stories, brief stories. I'm not going to go into any details about my stories, but there is one story, a current story happening in a local city to Vancouver, a nearby neighboring city. And we're going to start with the first topic around it. It's a long story, and I'm not going to give you all the details. I'm just going to discuss the portion that is the cause of the story. And it involves police officers. I choose to be respectful of all citizens, including the police. I personally think that we can't trust the police. We have to stop looking for assistance from outside of our trusted friends and family. And even then, you cannot always trust everyone just because they're your family or your friends, right? You know who you trust, and you know who trusts you. And if we don't have that, then we are very isolated as individuals and as citizens. We need to stop thinking and assuming that all police across the board have our best interests in mind. We also need to stop assuming that they are held accountable for their actions when you are on your own. Because I'll tell you right now, many times I have experienced corrupt retail clerks. They are not accountable for their actions. They were not polite to me. They didn't go to the standards of the establishment. And yet that happens, right? You don't know what kind of mood or what type of standards each police officer really has. There's no guarantee for that. So think twice before you pick up the phone and dial 911. Think twice when you pick up the phone and call a non-emergency local police line. Because I'll tell you a story about someone who was looking for help in a nearby city to Vancouver, called the non-emergency line because she had been robbed while she was in her house. The door was open. And I'm going to get to that story in a minute. I just want you to know that these are human rights issues. These are issues involving cannabis. These are medical, pharmaceutical mind games. These are cop issues. These are community issues. And if you care about these issues, you care about common sense, mutual respect across the board. If you care about your own personal free will and safety. If you care about others' free will and safety. If you care about keeping people who use cannabis for their own personal choice. If you care about them not being put in jail for using cannabis as their personal choice, as an alternative to other medication and pharmaceuticals. If you care about not, let's say you don't care about cannabis, but you care about, you don't want to pay to house cannabis users in jail through your taxes, or you don't want to pay to house cannabis users in a psych ward because that is where people are being put. Because there's mistreatment within the authorities. And I'm going to tell you that story. If you care about that, you have an opportunity to vote for City Council if you're in Vancouver this month, October 10th and October 14th, you have 2 more chances to get in if you didn't get in yesterday like I did, and vote for the Sensibility Party. It's Watermelon Mary Jean Dunstan, who is the beautiful and epic face and voice of the Sensibility Party. She is a citizen who has actually confronted these issues from a personal viewpoint 20 years ago. She's epically known as Watermelon because she served watermelon on Wreck Beach, and she was arrested butt naked for serving cannabis cookies. And she is 100% put together and has common ground with the citizens to protect cannabis farmers, protect cannabis users, protect our citizens and our city to be independent free will thinkers. And this includes all types of issues that are concerned to people, including opiate, fentanyl, and how to help people, how to actually help people, not just categorize them, and how to have affordable housing and making common sense around our community issues. If you care about any of these issues, and I'm not making this whole video about promoting that, but what I'm talking about, you have the opportunity to actually do something about and have a voice of the citizens on our city council, working with our mayor and the team there in the future of Vancouver being safe, calm, compassionate, caring, and using common sense for solutions. The scenario. The other night, I went with my daughter to visit a woman who I hadn't even met yet, but I had felt, I get premonitions, and I was feeling something to do with this ahead of time. A week ahead of time, I was feeling this a lot about somebody in dealing with mental ward issues. I'm feeling a lot of people are in there dealing with unjust mental ward issues, and they're not being treated well at all. They're being treated poorly. That's a different subject. We're just going to focus on the cop part. The scenario that happened is a nearby local city to Vancouver, happened close to 2 weeks now. And this woman I know because I do beach meditations, and I post that I do beach meditations, and she was one of the guests that wanted to go. I contacted her, said, hey, are you coming to our beach meditation? She said, oh, and by the way, that's every Friday morning we do beach meditations, 7 a.m. with the ocean, raising the alchemy and cleansing ourselves in the ocean together. And at any rate, that's how I contacted this woman. And she said, I'd love to. I am in the hospital. Please contact me. And I was able to contact her through the common phone in the common room. And that's how I met this woman. And now I consider us each friends to each other. I care a lot about this person. I care a lot about this person. I have compassion for this person. She had called the police because she was having some windows in her apartment. The landlord had arranged that someone would remove the bars. That's what she was told. She doesn't even understand what the whole story is. Next thing she knew, the bars were off, and she had turned her back, and something she had just bought, an item she had just bought, was taken and removed. She turned around, it wasn't there, and her door was wide open. Now, let's backtrack her health history. PTSD she has, and she's holistic, alternative, only uses cannabis for post-traumatic stress disorder because only 2 years ago, she experienced a house fire. Plus, I would say anybody this day and age dealing with all the intense stress going on in the world today, we all have trauma like vibrating at our corners, and we need to continue to cleanse the trauma and support each other and really connect with each other. It's very important. So she has PTSD. It wasn't bothering her, but she felt some symptoms start right then, right? Panic. I'm being taken advantage of. Okay, I'm going to do the right thing and call the non-emergency line, even though she was just robbed. She called the Vancouver one, and they were, oh, you better call the one that's your city. So she called her city, which is right close by, her city non-emergency line, and said she was robbed. Could a police come? Police came, and because she was kind of panicking, they weren't sure exactly what was wrong, other than, oh, she may have been robbed or something. So they want to write it down. When they arrive, she's smoking a joint to calm herself down. This is when I think, from what I can feel from the story, and we have all the officers' numbers. She has written everything down. To everyone, continue to write everything down. Don't leave without something to write your notes down, and keep your notes with you at every moment. Do not let anyone take them from you, because it keeps your sanity and it also keeps everything documented. She's a 29-year-old woman. She was barely fully dressed because she was panicking. Then one cop decides, oh, a female cop, I'm gonna put her in the back seat of the car. Ma'am, put out that cannabis. Put out that joint. You can't have that disgusting stuff. Like there's this already, this person doesn't even respect that. She had informed them, I have PTSD. I was just trying to relax. Yes, of course, officer, I'll put it out. Just out of, okay, that's the rules, I'll put it out. She put it out. She'd barely smoked it. She's still panicking. When they put her in the back of the cop car and she doesn't feel that the police officer's on her side even, she's panicking more. She can barely breathe. She reaches out, please, I need to go to the hospital. I can't breathe. I'm really having a panic attack. We'll figure out this robbing thing later, right? They weren't even really focused on the fact that she had just been robbed. They thought they treat her like she's delusional. So there was 2 cops that had shown up for whatever reason, maybe, I don't know why initially, but she ended up in one cop car with one cop who was now driving her to police station at first, she thought, and then they took a quick turn because she was having a hard time breathing. She asked for the window to be open. They opened the window a little bit. She opened the window a little bit. And she continued to panic because she did not feel like this woman was on her side at all. And this woman said, okay, we're going to the hospital. Because she was asking to go to the hospital. She thought, okay, at least if I get to the hospital, the people at the hospital will treat me will help me. They'll understand what I'm going through, because she physically felt like she was having a heart attack or a stroke or something because she was panicking. And if anyone knows PTSD, or if anyone understands what panicking is like, even if anyone's on edge, and if you're in the back of a cop car when you're trying to report a robbery, you might panic, okay? This woman takes her to the psych ward. This cop takes her to the psych ward. And I mean, take this seriously, folks. Do not write off other people as insane just because the police officer said, this girl is manic. She didn't know she was being involuntary checked in. She didn't know that anything. She didn't have any access for a couple of days to call anyone. They took her phone within 3 days of her being there. They said she couldn't have a selfie. So she did not know until yesterday. We've figured it out. Well, we're still assuming, we're still guessworking, but with the next nurse of a psych ward, we figured out that cop must have told the front desk that she's manic or something. I found her, she's whatever. And that woman is being held against her will, that forced medication and threatened and all kinds of awful things. And I don't want to talk about all that. I just want to encourage everyone to get together, be community, communicate amongst ourselves, have common decency amongst ourselves. And you know what? I don't think all cops are bad. I don't assume that of anybody. I don't assume people are good, bad. But just because they're a cop, do not assume they have an understanding for you or will take care of you or rescue you. And as women, we appreciate protection. We appreciate that systems are put in place in common sense to solve, to protect, to rescue us. And you know what? We cannot assume that people will rescue us just because we call 911 for a robbery or even the non-emergency line. My daughter found that the most disturbing thing about this woman being put away in there, and it's like jail in there, man, is that there was no reading of this woman's rights, right? We just figured that out yesterday, that should have been a thing done. That wasn't done. But my daughter, who's 23, she was like, it clicked in her head when we were in there. Someone was getting out. They were leaving the psych ward. And we're like, what, you checked yourself in? And he's like, yeah, but I couldn't get out. Like they wouldn't let me out. And I was like, what was the key to getting out of here? He's like, I have no idea. And when my daughter heard that, she finds that's the most disturbing thing is this woman who has been put in there against her will, has no one siding with her, has her family's not in town, her father's alcoholic, her mother is a worrywart, doesn't believe in cannabis, thinks her daughter is needing treatment possibly because police brought her there, right? The medication is the answer, right? Treatment in the hospital is the answer to a panic attack, right? Like, this is disturbing. And my daughter found it so disturbing that this woman has no idea how to get out or why she's there or anybody to communicate with. It's like you have to go like this to talk to a social worker. Like, you have to constantly be clawing. And if you get out of line, they want to medicate you. If you say, let me out of here, or if you walk out, and that's a very narrow hallway in this place, you can't just walk out. I came out of there going, we need a lawyer. This is a human rights issue. So can we trust police? You can't assume that you can trust police. So do never call police by yourself. Call a friend first. Make sure you get around friends when you're calling the police, or you need to be around people. Don't just be on your own, because they can pick and choose what authority they'd like to use on you. And they can most likely get away with it. And someone who's been trained that it's not okay to continue to get attached to the person you're helping, well, they have no empathy. They're encouraged to not have empathy. And yet, there are great police officers. And here in Vancouver, I've had incredible experiences with acceptance around my, even around my cannabis business at the farmer's market. I've had a lot of hate from the public. The police defend me because they understand where I'm coming from. There's common sense around cannabis. And yet, you never know when you'll get a rookie who thinks they're just doing their job, or you get somebody who wants to play power trip games and doesn't appreciate what you're about. They can just roll all over your rights, and that's not okay. And even if you don't agree with cannabis, do you want to pay for cannabis users to be in getting all this medication that they don't want in their body? You're paying for that, and you're paying for food that they don't really want to eat and a place they don't want to be. They'd like to go home and pay their rent and pay their bills. Do you want to be paying for that? Or do you want to be paying for housing cannabis users? Like, seriously. Or cannabis growers, for that matter. So if you want to keep the power in the hands of the citizens, we need to be community. We need to treat each other with respect. And even if it's not your choice cannabis, there's no reason for you to be giving a dirty look and then popping an aspirin. Like, you need to question your morality if that's what you're doing. And if you are a cannabis user, you need to be smart. Don't assume people understand it. I know once you understand how the healing properties are, or even if you just want that stress relief, and you have every right to have that stress relief, you know? And you're not insane or delusional. I think that something that grows naturally, is a natural plant of healing, is meant to be for our bodies, don't you? And our brains. I don't think synthetic pharmaceuticals are it. So the police can't assume to trust the police, and yet you can't assume that they're the bad guy either. I just yesterday spoke with a police officer. He loves to protect citizens, and he's a happy, true persona. He's the ideal police officer, the one who's like looking out for you, watching your back, and appreciates that some people want to use cannabis and appreciates what it does for people. He's experienced or seen other people in his life heal with cannabis, heal their body, or keep their body healthy and keep their mind healthy. The properties of cannabis have yet to really be acknowledged by our Canadian government. It's not just, oh, let's go party. Let's put it in with like booze and party time. There's properties of cannabis that are true and medicinal. And there shouldn't be this war on a person because they choose it. So, can we trust the police? My personal experiences, no. Never trust the police, even the friendly one. Good cop, bad cop, you never know, right? But do your best to respect, and don't be dumb. Be smart. Do your best to communicate and be a real person with them. Don't assume they're going to rescue you. And don't assume they're going to put you away. You got to be smart around police. I experienced police at the harshest would have been in San Francisco years ago. My kids were little. And I was just trying to watch out for someone and understand why they're taking this innocent person and putting them in the back of a paddy wagon because they were a standby at a protest. And they were just standing there with a backpack. It was a young woman, student. And she wasn't even part of the protest. She was just like watching. And I just wanted to, I witnessed it with my kids. So I was wanting to just support. And I was treated like I should be put away, even though I had children with me. It was a huge thing. Slip through their fingers. Make yourself invisible. All perpetrators, all predators, that anyone who would want to hurt you or treat you poorly. Don't get near them, and don't do your best to avoid them. They're in your face. It happens. Calm, consistent. Don't let them trap you, because once they do, it's harder to get out. So let's support each other as community as well. The police are encouraged to judge and make judgment calls quickly. They don't have time to think about everything. And then they can just make judgment calls, like that police officer seemed to make a judgment call based on her mood. It just seems like based on mood. Like maybe she was just like, oh, stop yelling at me. I'm taking you to the psych ward. Like it could totally be as flippant as that. They're encouraged to not have empathy or be attached, when really this should be a place of heart. Solving and solutions doesn't mean you need a cold heart. You need to have heart to think clearly and actually save time and money and make solutions that empower people, that that you're not assuming they're delusional and telling them they're delusional. That's hard on people, especially sensitive people. Some people will take that on and think they are delusional when they're not. Do the police have too much authority over your free will? Just that story, that recent story says, yeah, you know what? There's too much authority in the hands of a police officer. They have too much say. They can get away with too much. And I don't think every police officer has a heart for people. They're taught to be cold very often. Our Vancouver police, my experience overall, has been quite amazing. I would say their overall common decency, mutual respect. That's what I hope for this world and our world here. And just like they say in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they said, don't call the cops. Anything that's a little too chaotic, try to check in with yourself and see what you could do. Get with comrades, real comrades, loyal comrades, and start building those relationships now. Make yourself feel good. Make sure your home feels as good and safe as possible, that you're surrounding yourself by sane, stable, safe people that are supportive and understanding of what your choices are in life. Start that now, because maybe you won't need the help. Maybe you're strong enough to be on your own all your life, but there are other people that could really appreciate your friendship, and that might be mutually satisfying in a overall let's live our lives in harmony effect. And some people choose to be miserable, so I'm not sure what we can do other than be responsible for ourselves and do our best to care about each other. And remember, Vancouver, right now you can vote for a city councillor, and there's quite an array of city councillors to choose from. There's only one seat, and I'd like to say the Sensibility Party cares about all the topics the citizens care about, including and especially to have a voice of the citizens, not a corporate voice, not a pharmaceutical voice, but a voice from the citizens who has dealt with authority and law and dealt with addiction and recovery, dealt with health, mental health, understands a lot about housing, as she has been living here amongst us for over 20 years, and understands what people need, the support and compassion they need, understands that we all need to give mutual respect on all the topics that matter to the citizens. She's not just focusing on cannabis, although she is a cannabis queen. She's open to any issues that are bothering the citizens. And right now, the biggest issues are affordable housing in Vancouver, the fentanyl opiate crisis, the cannabis issues, public transport systems, covering them, making them eco-friendly. Any issue that's mattering to the citizen, there is the Sensibility Party, and Watermelon's the woman you want to vote for. Mary Jean Dunstan, October 10th at City Hall and October 14th. And please share this if it makes sense to you. You listened with The Julie Show.